Shalom, shalom. Let's give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakar, Kadash. That was an apostle, the great millstone, side technology, Aqua, and Aqua is pushing the truth. So let's give all praise to your Barakta Yahweh, Barakta Yahushua, Barakta Yahweh, Barakta Yahushua, Barakta Yahweh, Barakta Yahushua, Barakta Yahweh, Barakta Yahushua. That was apostles, great millstone. I take on you, Arkham, and Aqua is pushing the truth. And let's get right into this lesson. It's the year of the hope prophecy that's coming to pass. Esau up to his old tricks, and we hot on his tail. So this is entitled Economic Hitman. And we're going to let it speak for itself. So you might want to watch that and get it. I'm going to go ahead and let this play.
It recently declassified information, the CIA's own website, where they admit that the U.S. government was deeply involved in the overthrow or assassination of Prime Minister Mossadegh of Iran, President Allende of Chile, Arbenz of Guatemala, Diem of Vietnam, Lumumba of the Congo. And speaking of Allende of Chile, he was replaced by the terribly brutal dictator General Pinochet, who was a great defender of Operation Condor and also oversaw the murder of tens of thousands of his people, and was praised by Secretary of State Henry Kissinger as a great defender of capitalism. I stood in front of the Shah of Iran, presidents of Indonesia, Ecuador, Panama, members of the Royal House of Saudi Arabia, and I've said something like, in this hand, I have millions of dollars for you and your friends if you play our game. In this hand, I have a gun in case you decide not to. Now, my words were more diplomatic than that, but that was the message. I was an economic hitman. And we economic hitmen have created a new global economy, really, a form of capitalism that I call predatory capitalism. I would go to countries with resources our corporations covet, like oil. I'd arrange a huge loan to those countries from the World Bank or its sister organizations, but the money wouldn't actually go to the country. It would go to our corporations, Bechtel, Halliburton, Brown and Root, familiar names, to build big infrastructure projects in those countries and incidentally make huge profits in the process. They'd build power plants and industrial parks, things that would benefit a few wealthy families in the country, the ones that own the industries. But the majority of the people would suffer. They would be left holding a huge debt they couldn't repay. So we go back and say, since you can't pay your debt, sell your resource, oil or whatever, real cheap to our corporations. Privatize. Sell your utilities, your schools, your jails, everything like that to our corporations. And Claudine also told me that if the leaders of these countries refused my offer, people she called jackals would be right behind me. I didn't actually carry a gun, but the jackals did. My first assignment was in Indonesia, a country that had just ended a terrible civil war where more than 1 million people had been killed. It had a terrifying reputation. And I have to admit that when I arrived in Jakarta, knowing I'd be there for about 3 years, my knees were shaking pretty bad. My stomach was filled with fluttering butterflies. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I was a very young man. I just knew that I was expected to produce a report that would convince the Indonesian government to build an extremely expensive electrical system, hiring our corporations to do it. Claudine had made it sound simple, even kind of James Bondishly romantic. But now I'm struck by reality, and I felt naive, ill-prepared, vulnerable. Fortunately for me, the winner of the Civil War, President Suharto, who was actually a dictator, wanted the projects that I was offering. And he also wanted CIA and Pentagon protection. And so every time I stumbled, and I stumbled often, somebody was there to pick me up. A government official would appear with an incredible report that would indicate beyond any shadow of a doubt that electricity was all the country needed to take off to huge growth. A Harvard-trained mathematician showed up with a mathematical formula that proved that if they just built this electrical system, everything would be fine. In the end, I produced a report that forecasts the need for electricity at an unheard of annual rate of 19%. Indonesia got its loan. Our corporation has made lots of money. And I was promoted from economist to chief economist. It was quite a lesson. At that time, the Cold War was just really, really revving up. And Washington believed that Cuba was about to spread communism throughout the hemisphere. The CIA developed a program called Operation Condor to support right-wing dictatorships in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, throughout the continent. Jaime Roldos, president of Ecuador, democratically elected, and Omar Torrijos, head of state of Panama, strongly opposed Operation Condor. I was sent down to get them to change their ways. They wouldn't. They refused. Roldos was killed when his private plane crashed in what many believe was not an accident. Torrijos said, if CIA killed my friend Jaime, I'll probably be next. In less than 3 months, he died when his private plane crashed under very similar circumstances. You're going to hear after the break, from a Marine Corps general who was in Panama at the time, and he agrees with me that these were probably, at least Torrijos was probably assassination.
So as you can see, economic hitman. So let's go to a movie I happen to be watching to show you how Esau put things in plain sight. And then we'll get on these scriptures on his ass. But, he's found guilty. This is his doing.
Yes. You see the river there? Yeah. The Vietnamese border is a couple of miles downstream. If we could just get across, they'll have to give us asylum. And then we can leave all this behind us. All right? Yeah.
Helen, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure, don't worry.
Jack, I'm going to check on the kids.
You're not just here for the girls, are you? No. Well, maybe a little.
British CIA or something?
Something like that.
Kennedy's?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. No, thanks for coming along.
Don't thank me. I'm the one who started this shitstorm.
What do you mean?
Guys like me paved the way for guys like you to wind up here. They don't usually fight back. Most of the time, they don't even realize what we're doing.
What? What do you mean?
We have interests in this region.
We?
Our countries, the corporations who run them, have interests here. So I show up all nice and friendly, offering to get them a loan to pay for our services, which we know they can't afford. Then we build them power plants, waterworks, freeways, it doesn't really matter. And when they can't repay us the debt, we are.
That's called economic hitman.
That's what we fucked up.
See? So right in plain sight, Esau put these things in the movies. And to show you how it's playing out in today's time, let's go.
I'm Amy Goodman. In Brazil, supporters of far-right former president... Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Brazil, supporters of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the Congress, Supreme Court, and Presidential Palace in the capital, Brasilia, Sunday. Police arrested over 400 rioters as they cleared them from the government buildings after the mob trashed offices, broke windows, destroyed computer equipment and artwork that was on display. The attack came 1 week after the inauguration of returning President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who spoke following the attack.
All those people who did this will be found and punished. They will realize that democracy guarantees the right to freedom and free speech, but it also demands that people respect the institutions created to strengthen democracy. And these people, these vandals, what could we say? They're fanatical Nazis, fanatical fascists. They did what has never been done in this country.
Bolsonaro's supporters have refused to accept his election loss, and Bolsonaro never formally conceded, instead leaving Brazil for Florida, as some U.S. lawmakers are now calling for him to be extradited. Brazil's Supreme Court ordered all pro-Bolsonaro protest camps around the country to be dismantled within 24 hours, for roadblocks to be lifted, and for police to arrest any protesters defying the orders. The court also suspended the governor of Brasilia as security flaws around the government buildings are investigated. As nations around the world condemn the attack, the day's events drew immediate comparisons to the January 6th Capitol insurrection in Washington, D.C. We'll go to Brazil for the latest after headlines. In El Paso, Texas, President Biden visited the...
So as you can see, it's on and on and on. So let's get right into these scriptures. Job 30, 5. Job 30 and 5. Well, let me do this first. Yeah, let me do this one first. Makes sense. It's Job 24 and 2. Some remove the landmarks, they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. And who doing that? The economic hitman. Who is that? Esau and his witchcraft. Through his businesses, his corporation, his world banks, and that witchcraft talisman money. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. Because when they do that in those lands, you notice everywhere Esau have been, he got everybody shacked up in projects, barrios, like huts. Behold, as wild asses in the desert, go they forth to their work, rise in bedtime for a prey. The wilderness yield food for them and for their children. See that? Because Esau is, what is he good at? Jacking up them gas prices. Y'all see that right now, right? How high them gas prices is? See that? The scriptures prophesy, and that's what we here at Great Millstone and our elders is telling us. That look, man, it's gonna go down. The year of the hopeful prophecies. So Job 24 and 4. They turn away the needy out of the way of the poor, and the earth hide themselves together. Behold, as well as in the desert, go they forth from their work, rise in bedtime for a prey. The wilderness yield food for them and for their children. See that? And that's their Wall Street. When they trade on their stock exchange, on their businesses, and they reinvest in their money, and the taxes that they been exempt from back into buying more stocks. Behold, they reap everyone his corn in his field, and they gather the vintage of the wicked. And that's us how to use their gas. But you see, they fluctuate and play with that all day long. They cause the naked to lodge without clothing. People can't afford it. But they have no covering in the cold. And what? You got people in the winter all out there living outside. Kids ain't got coat, unprepared, undressed. Sickness rampant all over the United States. And what we've been finding out, that the president's sons and them got shady business practices. That they are wet with the showers of the morning and embrace the rock for warmth of shelter. It said they pluck the fathers from the breast and take a pledge of the poor. And that's what they be doing. Well, they doing that to the Israelites through the economic hitman. And this ain't just America. It's going on in all them countries that the guy was speaking on earlier in South America, which is the Northern Kingdom. It's Psalms. It's Psalms 73 and 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. Because you look in and you see them in Maybach, Lamborghinis, you see them at the lakefront on their boats with their names and that's my father, grandfather. Seeing them in these mansions, but that's for prey. For they are, is a, yep, you go. For there are no bands in their depth, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. So they didn't get the curses. Therefore pride compassed them about as a chain, violence covered them as a garment, and they good at killing. Then their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish. They are corrupt and speaking wickedly. Concerning a person, they speak well. Oh, you guys, we got welfare programs. We sign the kids up. And say how they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walking through the earth. Therefore, his people return hither, and waters of the full cup rain out to them. And they say, how does God know? And isn't, and is your knowledge in the Most High? Yes, sir. So let's keep it moving. So Yahweh Hashem Yahweh got these Edomites in the trick bag. Because what they do, they go all over acting like they God and removing the landmarks, breaking the laws of the scriptures. It's Job 30 and 5. They that drive forth, they were driven forth from among men to cry after them as a thief. They dwell in the cliff of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in rocks. Keep going. It said they among the braves, among the bushes they braved, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were violent in the earth. And now am I their song, yea, I am their byword. See that? And that's exactly what we're playing out now. How the economic hitman, which y'all watch further and go further into that. They got books and everything. Got them more on YouTube too. And that's the techniques that they've been using to conquer the 12 tribes of Israel. Must be Mook. So now we became their song. Pick a nigga, pick a bull, pick a nigga, pick a bull. For those of y'all who don't know. But it's all good though, because we got documentaries like that coming out and things of that I've been shown, said in movies. That's doing this. Isaiah 25 and 7. And I will destroy the mountain, the face of the covering cast of all people. I would know who that thief is in the veil that is spread over all nations. And you see, they even making movies on it, like, okay, fuck that. They don't, okay. It said, he will swallow up death and victory, and the Lord God wipe away tears from all faces. And the rebuke of his people shall he take away from off the earth, for the Lord hath spoken. Woo, that's powerful. So, this the year of the hopeful prophecies come. And that's what we do. We're going to keep on pushing. But this is Isaiah 14 and 3. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. Which what we're doing today. It said that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how has the oppression ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the ruler. He who smote the people in wrath with a continuous stroke. And even though you got economic hitman, all that history, they over there right now, though. He that smote the people in wrath with a continuous smoke. He that rules the nation in anger is persecuted and none hindered. See that? That's what they've been using. Persecution, anger, wrath. They say the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon sing, since thou art laid down, no fellows come up against us. And that's what the whole world is about. So we just gonna keep shining light on the Edomites, the devils, and they moves. I'll get in tune with the economic hitman. And with that, let's give all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem, the Karka. Stay tuned.